This is Father Richard Holang on EWTN today from the series Church and the Poor. And today we are in Orissa in Rourkela, and this is the area of India that we have heard so much of, where there is great persecution of Christians. And yet, when we arrived yesterday, we saw joyful welcome and a wonderful sense of the good news being spread among the very poorest of people. At this mission is Father Savio Francis, who will interview today on EWTN. Good day.
Good
Father
morning,
Savio.
Father.
How are you?
Fine, thank
Great
you.
to see you.
Yes,
Great
Father.
to see you. Yes.
It's just so wonderful to have you with us. Brighten up our lives and brighten up the mission here.
Well,
You know.
it's so bright now at this mission that you're brightening up my life. But tell us, what is it like here living in Orissa, in Rourkela, where there have been so much disturbances and burning of buildings and rejection of Christians and killing of them. But why are you so happy and cheerful?
The answer is the good news. It is the Lord.
Yes.
And just as when you came and we had this joyful presence of the brothers and you and the poor with us.
Yes.
It was just the presence of Christ, like Christ himself walking amongst us and lifting us up into a different world. And all the persecutions and struggles don't count after that.
Yes.
Because
well, brother, all I can say, thank you for the welcome. And thank all the young brothers who are training for our community for their welcome.
Yes.
But I find that you were playing drums.
Oh, I love to do that.
Yes.
It's a very strong culture, the Adivasi culture. The drums, the dance, the music, the singing is part and parcel of this culture. And they really bring forth life into one another. They feed into one another with joy. Whether it's a wedding celebration or Christmas or New Year, there is always joy in the hearts. Simple people, but full of life.
But why would they celebrate Christmas? And why would they celebrate the New Year, which is the Feast of the Blessed Mother?
The Blessed Mother.
And yet there are people who are not Christians. What's been happening here, do you find?
Many of the Adivasi people, as we know them, they come from a background which is called Sarna. It is neither Hindu nor is it a different religion, but they believe in creation. And because of their strong beliefs in creation, the New Year always means much to them. It's like something new has come forth and they have to celebrate. And they look for something solid in their lives. And having heard of the Christian faith from the early Jesuits that came and evangelized our forefathers here, the Christian faith just began to flow. And these Christian people today celebrate with most delight. The best celebration they ever have is Christmas, the joy of the Lord being born for us.
So they're not against the Christ, or they don't reject Christ and the incarnation.
They don't reject Christ or the incarnation, and they love the Lord and they love Christianity, especially when it comes to the Adivasis, and many of them are walking.
Adivasis?
The Adivasis.
Tell us about the Adivasis.
The Adivasis, the basic meaning of it is the primitive man or the original man. And the cultures that they have held on to still prevails. And the Adivasis are a simple people, very hardworking people, very devout. And the moment they find the truth which they are seeking for, they know that it is the truth. And the truth they have found is Jesus is Lord. And that is why Rourkela has become the hub of vocations to the Catholic Church.
Explain. Explain a little more.
Many youngsters, men, boys and girls keep dedicating their lives into some or the other religious orders. We get at least on an average 40 boys who join us a year. Every year by June we have 40 boys, and all of them are Adivasis. And their faith is so profound, their vocations are so strong. They just, when they join, it's as though they know what they're about, and they just want to give their lives to God. And it is so with the families, it is so with the girls who join the communities, it is so with the church locally.
Yeah, well, that's strange. Here you have, on one hand, persecution,
Yes.
and yet at the same time you have all these young people being drawn to Christ and the vocation of being a religious.
Yes.
How do you explain that?
The persecutions have been very strong from the fanatical group of the Hindus, who have used religion as a political issue. They have made religion into politics, and it has no connection, the persecution has no connection to religion. Whatever happened with the Christians is a political issue, and that's what we are facing right now. And the more the persecutions are taking place, the greater the faith. In fact, many of our Christians were pushed away into the jungles. They fled into the jungles out of fear. Many of them killed by the wild animals in the jungles. Many of them died of the cold, and a number of them with hunger. But then they decided that whether we live or we die, we are going to be Christians, and we are going back home. So they returned to their villages, stronger in their faith. Yes.
And ready to join religious
And
life.
ready to give their lives to God
Even
in a
though
more
they-
fiercer way. Yes.
Even though they might be killed or rejected by their own
Definitely
neighbors.
So. Definitely so.
Yes.
Yes.
What do you find, Father Savio, is the key to teaching the people about Christ and the good news of Christianity?
We have found the best way is the living of the Beatitudes. The works with the poor, the experience of Christ Himself in the suffering ones, even amongst those who were persecuted, when the fathers, the sisters, the brothers walked into these places where the poor were suffering so much and welcomed them as Christ would. To stand up for them and to say, this is the joyous moment of your life. The cross is our resurrection. And looking at the Beatitudes, teaching the meaning of the Beatitudes, the brothers have done such a marvelous job in the lives of people that many of them, rather than despairing or giving up their Christian faith, and many of them were forced to give up Christianity, and some of them did, but with the brothers' presence, many were saved, and a few even came back to the faith.
Really?
This is the joy
Yes.
of the Christian faith, the Beatitudes. We live in order to build the kingdom of God on earth by, you know how? By loving one another, by serving one another, by loving the poor and becoming one with the poor, by becoming one with the Lord. This is the Good Samaritan.
You have given me, my dear disciples. They are thine, but thou hast given them to me, your Son. I have taught thy name to your beloved sons. Thine they were, but mine are they, and we are
What I'm amazed at, Father Savio, is the numbers of people came to our celebration.
Yes.
It's amazing. I mean, there were people told me that they were Muslims, people told me they were Hindus, others told me they were Christians. Some people said Christian but not Catholic. And why would they all come to this celebration when it is a Catholic Mass and it is a Catholic monastery, obviously?
Yes.
Why would they be so drawn to the brothers and their works?
See, the honest truth is we have just been in Orissa for about 3.5 years. And when we first came to Orissa, people were looking at us in a very hostile manner.
Were they?
They were, and we faced a few challenges. And we were
Can you
questioned.
tell us like what challenges? Yes.
People questioned us as to why have you come here? Have you come to evangelize us? Have you come to change our faith? We are not going to support you. And there were those kind of threats to us as to we are not going to be welcomed. And for providence purposes, I guess, God has His own plans. We are surrounded with Hindus. All our houses are Hindus. We just have 2 Catholic families next to us. And
And the rest are Hindus?
The rest are all Hindus. And it was a big question even for us, why did God bring us here? And eventually when we began to walk into homes and
Visits.
look out for the needs of the poor, people began to say that we are different because we never evangelized boldly with the word, we evangelized through the Beatitudes, the living out of the Beatitudes. That itself became a big preaching for them. And people began to see that the brothers are different. They are not here to run schools. They are not here to evangelize or to convert people, but they are here as a Christ-like figure. They are here as someone who's here to stand up for the poor, for justice, for mercy. And eventually their doors opened up. And you have what you call the untouchables still there. Some of the Hindu traditions have that. That non-Hindu, if you're a Hindu and I come to your house, you will not allow me to touch any of your glasses or plates or cups. But now people have welcomed us. And we eat with them, we drink with them. They come to our house.
Even with these untouchables?
Yes, yes.
Are
yes.
these untouchables what you call the Harijans?
They will be actually on a lower level. They are not Harijans, which are the lowest. They are the Hindus, but a lower level Hindus, and they are not allowed to go anywhere, and they are not allowed to welcome anyone. But now it has opened the doors to us.
That's all part of the caste system.
It's all part of the caste
Yes,
system.
yes. And you welcome them as a Christian.
Oh yes, we welcome anyone into our house. As a matter of fact, and. For just a little example, our postman is a Muslim, and when he just came and started delivering letters to us, the brothers just started engaging with him. How are you? How is your family? Little things. And he said, this is the first time somebody has stopped to speak to me. Normally I just go to my duties and it's done, but this is the first time I'm experiencing warmth, I'm experiencing love, I'm experiencing humanity. And it was the Beatitudes that the brothers offered. And today the man has become a very good friend to us. He's a Muslim. And this is where we began to break ground through the living out of the Beatitudes. And the marvels that have taken place after that. People began to come to us with their children saying, can you help my child to study? And we began to, we just started with about 10. And today 70 families have sent their children to us. And more than half of them are not Christians.
Yes.
And so when the celebration did happen, news about us was already well spread. And people knew that we are different. And
different in what way?
We are different from running parishes. We are different from running just educational institutions. we are not people who are set apart from the poor, but we are people with and for the poor. This is what made a very big difference in their lives. They realized we are not here just to talk, we are here to do. And when they saw the life of the brothers, the joy that the brothers radiate each time they meet the poor, the poor began to come in numbers to us. And even though we had invited 2,000 people for the function, we were totally joyful when we saw that it was over 4,000.
Feeding of the
It
4,000.
was feeding of the
Saint Mark.
4,000.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
what was most joyful to us is that more than half of them were Hindus. And when they had come for the Mass, they sat so quietly, and it was as though they were part of the Catholic faith. And they followed the whole Mass so silently, so worshipfully, and it truly was a moment of joy, even to us, just as it brought joy to you when you saw all this happening the other day. It brought joy to us that
Yes, yes.
people have come to recognize that this is holy ground.
Yes,
this
yes.
is what
And
we
so
seek to
the monastery then is fully respected by the Hindus
It
and
has been fully welcomed
Muslims.
now.
Yes,
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 yes, yes, yes. Tell me, I was a bit curious that even while we had the celebrations, you had all these tribal dances and all these groups wanting to celebrate with the Catholics. Would they not feel that they're transgressing their customs and their religious beliefs?
What has happened is in the recent months, many of them have said, I don't care what people say, I am part of you.
Yeah.
And
yes.
living
Children under God.
Yes, we are part of
brothers and
MOP.
sisters. Yes.
We are part of what your work is about, and we are all sons and daughters of God. So there's not much of a difference that we should ever make. And they began to open the doors and started becoming part of us. But one of the Adivasi cultures is this: we are, even though we are not a group that goes out and celebrates with others, they have taken the initiative to say, these are our people and we have to participate. We want to show our joy and our appreciation to them by offering a little dance. And most of them are poor. They say, we can't give you, it's like St. Peter, silver and gold I have none, what I have I give to you. And they offer the little dances as a contribution, as a sign of their acceptance that you are mine. So we had people from the village who just came forth, a group of Hindus who just came forth, and it was just a sign of warm acceptance of the brothers.
Yes. Now, Father, tell me, Father Savio, there are all these poor people that we see at the railway stations. They seem to just sleep in the cold nights. They have nothing at all. And many of them say that they come to sell their little packages of fruit and vegetables that they harvest and all the rest of it. Will it be in that direction that the mission will go in terms of taking care of the poor?
Yes, Father.
It has begun also?
Yes.
What do you do here for the poor in Rourkela?
Well, first of all, to mention about the issue of the railway station, you would find that a very systematic thing in most of the railway stations in India, because many of these people are homeless. Either they have no homes or they are very poor and they come to sell a little popcorn or chips, and with that they try to have their livelihood. And what we have begun is we have gone and looked around to see who really is most in need. Who are the people who are really suffering? And we have found out that there are many people who don't even have a proper meal a day. Sometimes they go for days together without food. And we have begun a little food line for those kind of people. They come to our house, we give them packages of food, and also there are many of them who suffer from illnesses and they can't afford it, and a number of them even die.
This is Ranjan. We have been helping him past 1 year. He was suffering from bone TB, and when we come to know, we took him to the hospital, and after getting treatment, the doctors gave up hope because it was too late for him to be treated. Then from that time onwards, we have been helping him the medical needs, whatever he needs, as well as we're providing every week food packages for the family because he's not able to do any work, as well as his wife. So we have to look after the whole family. After his sickness, even his own family has rejected him. But we have told them that, anyway Ranjan, don't worry, we are with you.
So we offer our medical support to many
Yes,
of these people,
yes.
and number of them have come back to life. And
Yes.
it brings a joy to us to see
Yes.
these people. So, but also we have looked out for the needs of
The homeless.
those homeless, poor.
Yes.
And we have decided we are going to open a home for them soon, and take in as many people as, because the Mother Teresa sisters are nearby and they are houseful. And they are unable to accommodate anymore, so we can see the increase in homelessness.
Yes, and you know, our EWTN audiences have been wonderful, Father Savio, in helping us internationally, really.
Yes.
I would say the support of EWTN has been extraordinary in helping us to serve in many, many, many countries, including the Orissa, where we have put up the
Thank God for
land.
EWTN. Yes,
Right,
it's been a
right.
big blessing. I must say.
Right, the land, the buildings, and
yes,
so forth, which you brothers with your own hands have built up, you know.
Yes, yes.
But why would young people come to Missionaries of the Poor? We spoke with Bishop Barwa,
Yes.
and he says it's amazing how we're getting vocations.
Yes.
Why are all these young people, you think, coming to us, despite the fact that they might get killed, they might be martyred, they will be working with the poorest of people all their lives, and there is no financial or material rewards for them. Why would they come to Missionaries of the Poor?
One of the most interesting things, again, is with the Adivasis, where we are in Rourkela. That's the Catholics really are the majority of the Catholics are Adivasis there, and with these young men, they just want to serve the Lord with all their heart. And when they look at the lives of the brothers, the simplicity, they look at the challenges of life, they hear of martyrdom, and they just say, this is what I want. I want to give my life to Christ. Even if it means death, I want to serve the Lord.
What
till I
about their
die.
families, their mothers and fathers?
Their
who might-
mothers, yes, there is a very strong family setup in India.
Yes.
And the boys have a very great affection for their mothers, especially the mothers. And but the mothers and fathers are equally devout, and they say, "Go, my son, you have my blessing."
How do these youngsters who are, or information on the Brother Anil and yourself, able to come to that sense of self-sacrifice and love and service of Christ? How do they come to that?
Much of it comes from the background. Much of it comes from what they have been brought up with, the simplicity of life, the traditions, their strong traditions in the faith. But when they come and say they want to be brothers, they really mean they want to be Christ. And it is a challenge for us to train them in that direction of self-sacrifice. But then they say to us, you brothers have done it, so why can't we? And Brother Christopher and Brother Benedict and Brother Joachim, they are so selfless in pouring out themselves towards for the Lord and for the poor, from morning to evening, and they are always smiling. And these young men, they come and say, what is the secret, you know? And when they look into themselves and say, I have joined to give my life to the Lord, and they see the brothers always cheerful and say, this is what I want. The joy of the brotherhood is what I want.
The joy.
I just
being
don't
brothers
want,
as
yes,
Jesus was a
yes,
brother.
yes.
Yes.
I just don't want to be
Yes.
someone who does the work, but I want someone who radiates the joy of Christ through my work, through my life in community. This is the strongest desire in the young man.
Self-love is tied up with love of the world. Love of God has to do with sacrificing yourself. Sacrificing yourself. Not caring about yourself, but just caring about the crucified Jesus, the crucified Christ. And we see the crucified Christ in our poor brothers and sisters.
I know you love him, Lord. You died upon the cross. We've sinned against you, Lord, but always you forgive our sins. You show the way, oh Lord. Forgiveness is your Lord.
So the contemplative in action, it's not separation from the world, but it's being in the world but not of the world and so forth. But they're so young. How can they grasp that, Father Savio?
Much of it has to do in the formation of the prayer life, and we make the young men understand that much of their work is prayer, and what they pray.
Much of their work is prayer.
Yes, and whatever they pray is what they carry from work. So even praying the divine office, joining the celebration of the Holy Mass, that itself is an action. That itself is an action. And the young men have realized that every action, whether you're in the chapel, or you're in the garden, or you're with the poor, or you're having a meal, everything they do is an act of prayer to the Lord. And so the entire contemplation in action, we who are contemplatives in action, it becomes real in these young men. And little by little, of course it takes time to become a solid foundation, but these are the foundations on which we build. And the young men have responded very positively to that. So the formation has been a success in that.
Okay. Now, what is your deepest desire as a religious? What do you want from this life?
As a religious, I have received so much depth and so much knowledge of the Lord from the missionaries of the poor. And my deepest desire is to spread this same depth by bringing many to be part of the missionaries of the poor, as well as to make people understand that the real joy comes from living out the Beatitudes.
Wonderful, wonderful. We want to invite young people, well, not only young people, but people who deeply love the Lord to come and join Missionaries of the Poor. We've opened a mission also, of all places, in North Carolina. And we know that great blessings will come upon your life and also our lives as we continue to serve the poorest and to represent the Church of the Poor for EWTN. God bless you.